Dad, I don't have a father. That's what my daughter declared when I stood on the porch of the $3.2 million house I'd bought for her. The house meant to be the backdrop of her dream life. Instead, I found her scrubbing floors, dressed in a tattered apron, looking at me as if I were a complete stranger. When your car is stolen, you call the police. When your money disappears, you call a lawyer. But who do you call when someone steals your daughter's mind, convincing her you never even existed? This story will reveal how a predator can transform a bright, capable woman into a prisoner within her own home. If you think you understand manipulation, prepare to see just how far down the rabbit hole it goes. And if you have daughters, sisters, or anyone you cherish, you need to know what happened next. I'm Dr. David Mitchell. 3 days ago, I flew back from Toronto, eager to surprise my 26-year-old daughter, Sarah. We'd been in close contact for the past 2 years, or so I believed. She had a master's degree in psychology, a fulfilling job helping trauma survivors, and a beautiful house in Palo Alto that I'd purchased as a graduation gift. But when I rang the doorbell at 1247 Maple Street, the woman who answered was unrecognizable. "Can I help you?" she asked politely, as if I were simply delivering a package. "Sarah, it's me. It's Dad." She tilted her head, a look of confusion clouding her face. "Dad? I don't have a father. You must have the wrong house." Before I could respond, a man appeared behind her. "Is there a problem here?" "This man says he's my father," Sarah told him. The man looked at me with an expression that bordered on pity. Sarah's father abandoned her years ago. She's made it very clear she wants no contact with family. I watched my brilliant, independent daughter nod in agreement. That's when I realized this wasn't a simple family misunderstanding. This was something far more sinister. Let me rewind and explain how we arrived at this point. Judge Wilson studied the document carefully. "Mr. Hayes, do you have an explanation for these findings?" We questioned the validity of that analysis. "I see. Well, pending further investigation, I'm granting the emergency motion. All accounts associated with the Mitchell Family Trust are frozen as of this moment. All property transfers dated after December 1st, 2023, are suspended pending review." Detective Crawford had prepared for the next phase. As soon as Judge Wilson signed the order, 2 officers were dispatched to Wells Fargo to implement the account freeze. Another team went to the county recorder's office to flag the property deed. But I knew Brandon wouldn't take this lying down. My phone rang at 11:30 a.m., just as Amanda and I were leaving the courthouse. A known number, but I knew who it was. Dr. Mitchell. Brandon's voice was different now. No more fake friendliness. This was the real Brandon Phillips. "What do you want?" "I want to explain something to you about your daughter. Sarah has been very clear about not wanting contact with you, but you seem determined to force yourself into her life. The court seems to disagree with your assessment. The court doesn't understand the full situation. Sarah has been seeing a therapist for severe family trauma. She's been working through some very difficult memories about your relationship." "What memories?" "I think that's between Sarah and her doctor, but she's asked me to tell you that your attempts to control her finances are exactly the kind of behavior that damaged your relationship in the first place. This was textbook manipulation, creating a false history, making the victim's family the problem, positioning himself as the protector. I'd read about these tactics in Amanda's case files." "Brandon, let me be very clear about something. I know what you are. I know what you've done to Emily Watson, Jennifer Hill, and Lisa Chun, and I know what you're doing to my daughter." There was silence for a moment. "What do you mean?" "Emily Watson's father, Jennifer Hill's brother, Lisa Chun's family, they all reported the same thing. Right before Marcus disappeared with their daughters, he called them. He explained exactly how he'd manipulated their loved ones. He couldn't resist gloating. So, he might call me. He might. And if he does, you need to be ready." The recording equipment was smaller than I'd expected, just a modified cell phone that would capture and transmit everything to a secure server. If Marcus called, every word would be preserved as evidence. But I needed more than evidence, I needed leverage. At 2 a.m., I made a decision that violated every legal restriction placed on me. I drove to the house at 1247 Maple Street, knowing it was empty, knowing I was breaking the law, but also knowing it might be my last chance to understand what had happened to my daughter. Inside, I found Marcus Holt's real workshop. We have 72 hours before the final hearing. The house at 1247 Maple Street told a story I wasn't prepared to read. In what should have been Sarah's home office, I found Marcus's real operation. 3 computer monitors displaying financial software, dozens of manila folders organized by victim names, and a professional-grade recording studio set up in the walk-in closet. The recordings were labeled by date and emotional state. Sarah, initial compliance training. Sarah, financial dependency installation. Sarah, family isolation protocol. I put on the headphones and listened to my daughter being systematically destroyed. Marcus's voice was calm, clinical. Sarah, tell me again why your father abandoned you. He didn't abandon me. He went to Toronto for work. But he chose work over you. He chose money over family. That's abandonment, isn't it?
I guess it could be seen that way.
How did that make you feel? Hurt, lonely, and who's the only person who's ever put you first? You are. The dates showed the progression. What happened next will only make sense if you understand what I thought I knew about my daughter's life. Sarah had always been fiercely independent. After her mother's death when she was 16, we'd become closer than most fathers and daughters. She finished college early and earned her master's in psychology by the age of 24. A brilliant kid, the kind of person who could spot manipulation from a mile away, or so I thought. 2 years ago, when I accepted a position in Toronto, Sarah was flourishing. She had just started working at a therapy clinic in San Francisco, helping trauma survivors rebuild their lives. The irony of that would strike me later. Dad, I want to stay in California, she told me during one of our last dinners together. This is where I belong. This work matters to me. I respected her decision. More than that, I wanted to support it. So, I made the biggest financial commitment of my life. On June 15, 2022, I wired $3,200,000 from my Wells Fargo account to purchase 1247 Maple Street. The paperwork was clean, the location ideal, close to her work, in a safe neighborhood, exactly the kind of place where she could build a fulfilling life. I also established the Mitchell Family Trust with $1 million, naming Sarah as the primary beneficiary. Wells Fargo managed it, ensuring she'd have financial security no matter what happened to me. The trust was airtight, designed to shield her from anyone who might try to exploit her. Dad, this is too much, she protested when I handed her the deed. It's not too much. It's exactly enough. You deserve a foundation to build from. She cried, tears of happiness streaming down her face. We hugged in the driveway of her new home, and I felt like I'd finally done something right as a single father. For the first year, everything seemed perfect. Our video calls were frequent, filled with stories about her work and her new life. She was dating someone casually, nothing serious. She seemed content. Then, Dr. Mitchell, you should be very careful about making accusations you can't prove. I don't need to prove anything. The evidence speaks for itself. Evidence can be misleading. For example, elderly men under stress sometimes develop paranoid delusions. They imagine threats that don't exist. They make poor decisions that affect their families. The threat was subtle but clear. He was setting up a narrative where I was the unstable one, where my concerns about Sarah were signs of mental decline. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to stop manipulating my daughter. You're going to return control of her assets, and you're going to disappear from her life. Brandon laughed. Or what? You'll sue me? You'll call the police? Dr. Mitchell, I haven't broken any laws. Sarah is an adult who made adult choices. If those choices upset you, that's your problem to work through. We'll see. Yes, we will. By the way, how's your heart these days? All that stress can't be good for a man your age, especially with your family history of cardiac events. He knew about my father's heart attack. That information could only have come from Sarah, which meant he'd been mining her personal history for leverage. Stay away from my daughter. I am your daughter's husband. She needs me to protect her from people who claim to love her, but actually want to control her. People like you. The line went dead. Amanda was watching my face. What did he say? He threatened my health, and he's been gathering information about my family medical history. That's escalation. He's feeling cornered. Amanda's expression was grim. Dr. Mitchell, we need to be prepared for him to do something desperate. Like what? Like disappearing with Sarah before we can build our case. These men always have exit strategies. I thought about Jennifer Hill, missing for 3 years. I thought about Lisa Chun in the hospital. I thought about my daughter's terrified eyes through that window. Early sessions focused on rewriting Sarah's memories of our relationship. Later sessions involved what Marcus called dependency conditioning, creating artificial emotional crises that only he could solve. By the final recordings, Sarah's voice was completely different, smaller, younger, desperate for his approval. Please don't be angry with me, she said in one recording from a week ago. I'll do better. I'll be better. I know you will. But you understand why I have to punish you when you talk to your father, right? Yes, because he's toxic for me. That's right. And what happens to people who let toxic influences back into their lives? They get sick again. Good girl. I was listening to my daughter being brainwashed, and every instinct I had as a father and a doctor was screaming at me to put my fist through the wall. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. Dr. Mitchell, you sound upset. Marcus's voice was exactly as it was in the recordings. Calm, controlled, enjoying his power. Where's my daughter? She's safe. She's with someone who actually loves her. You mean someone who's been psychologically torturing her for 8 months? Marcus laughed. Torture? Doctor, I've given Sarah the first healthy relationship of her life. I've helped her understand how damaged she was by your neglect. I have recordings, Marcus. I know what you did to her. Recordings of what? A loving husband helping his wife work through family trauma? I'm sure those will be very compelling to law enforcement. He was right, and he knew it. Everything on those recordings could be interpreted as legitimate therapy sessions if taken out of context. I know who you are, Marcus Holt, wanted in 3 states. Identity theft, murder. Murder? That's a very serious accusation. I hope you can prove it. Jennifer Hill. Jennifer was unstable. Tragically, she took her own life. Very sad. After you drove her to a psychological breakdown. Then Brandon entered the picture. The change was subtle at first. Sarah began mentioning him more and more often, how thoughtful he was, how he was helping her get organized, how he understood her in ways other people didn't. Classic early-stage manipulation tactics, although I failed to recognize them at the time. He's a lawyer, she told me during a call last fall. Real estate law. He's been helping me understand all the paperwork you set up. That should have been my first red flag. Sarah didn't need help understanding paperwork. She'd always been sharp with details, meticulous about documentation. But I was busy with cardiac cases, working long hours, and I trusted my daughter's judgment. The calls became less frequent after Christmas. When we did talk, Brandon was often in the background. Sometimes I'd hear his voice, always polite, always helpful, always subtly steering the conversation. Sarah seems tired, I mentioned to my colleague, Dr. Ed Wilson, during a break between surgeries. Kids get busy, he said. She's probably just building her adult life. But something felt wrong. The medical training that had taught me to detect subtle changes in heart rhythms was now picking up on irregularities in my daughter's voice. She spoke more quietly now. She asked fewer questions. She seemed smaller. Last month, I decided to surprise her. I've been planning to visit for her birthday anyway, but I wanted it to be spontaneous. I wanted to see her in her natural environment, meet this Brandon person, and reassure myself that everything was truly fine. I should have called first. The flight confirmation clearly showed my arrival time. Tuesday, 2:15 p.m. San Francisco International. I'd deliberately chosen a time when Sarah would likely be home from work. I wanted to see her face light up with surprise. Instead, I saw a stranger wearing my daughter's face calling me sir and asking if I needed directions, standing on that porch with Brandon. How long do we have? Maybe 48 hours. Once he realizes we're serious about the investigation, he'll make his move. Detective Crawford approached us as we reached the parking garage. Dr. Mitchell, I need you to know something. We just ran Brandon Phillips through the system. He was in a federal database, not the man he claimed to be. Brandon had threatened, "I'll make Sarah hate you forever." I pressed Detective Crawford. What do you mean he's not who he says he is? His reply chilled me. The real Brandon James Phillips died in a car crash in Oregon 3 years ago. This man living with your daughter stole his identity. The parking garage seemed to sway. My understanding of the situation had just been completely upended.
So who is he?
I asked, desperate for answers. We're working on it, doctor, but this changes everything. Identity theft is a federal offense. We can act on this immediately. Amanda was already on her phone. I'm calling for an emergency protective order. If he's using fake documents, Sarah could be in imminent danger. Detective Crawford raised a hand. There's more. The phone number he used to call you is registered to a Marcus Chun in San Francisco. Likely another stolen identity. But here's the kicker. Chen's credit report shows a string of high-end purchases over the past 6 months. Expensive jewelry, luxury car payments, first-class tickets, all charged to credit cards opened with Sarah's financial information.
He'd been bleeding my daughter dry.
Amanda ended her call. Judge Wilson will see us at 2 p.m. for an emergency hearing, but we need to move fast. If he realizes we're onto him, he might panic. What that means for Sarah, I don't want to think about. We have to get to her before he does something irreversible. We sped to 1247 Maple Street in Crawford's unmarked car. The plan was straightforward. Serve the protective order, confirm Sarah's safety, and get her away from Brandon long enough for her to understand the truth. After I tried unsuccessfully to help her overcome her mental health issues. Some people can't be saved, Dr. Mitchell. But Sarah is different. Sarah can be helped. Helped by being turned into a prisoner in her own house. By being removed from toxic influences like controlling fathers who use money to manipulate their children. I realized he was doing exactly what Amanda had predicted. He couldn't resist explaining his methodology. Tell me something, Marcus. How does it work? How do you pick your targets? I don't pick targets, doctor. I identify women who need rescue from damaging family systems. Sarah, for example, was being financially controlled by a father who used guilt and money to keep her dependent. I gave her independence. You gave her a golden cage. The house, the trust fund, the constant check-ins, all designed to keep her tied to you emotionally. I set her free. Free to live as your servant? Free to experience unconditional love for the first time in her life? The recording device was capturing everything. Marcus was describing textbook psychological manipulation while believing he was describing therapeutic intervention. And the financial transfers, taking $75,000 from her accounts. Shared marital resources. Sarah wanted to start fresh, away from the toxic wealth used to control her. Where are you taking her? Somewhere she can heal. Somewhere family members with restraining orders can't interfere with her recovery. Marcus, you're making a mistake. The FBI knows who you are. They know about Jennifer Hill. They're not going to let you disappear again. The FBI doesn't understand complex family dynamics. They see a successful businessman helping his wife escape an abusive family situation. By the time they sort through the legal complications, Sarah and I will be enjoying our new life. What about Emily Watson, Lisa Chern, Jennifer Hill? Were they all just escaping abusive families? Some people are strong enough to make healthy changes. I felt the same sensation I got when a patient went into cardiac arrest during surgery. Time slowing down, adrenaline sharpening every detail, the chilling understanding that someone's life hung in the balance. There's been a misunderstanding, Brandon continued, his voice reasonable and calm. Sarah has had some difficulties with family relationships. She's been very clear about not wanting contact. Difficulties? What difficulties? We talked 3 weeks ago. Brandon's smile never wavered. Sometimes people say things to avoid confrontation. Sarah's been working very hard on establishing healthy boundaries. I've been supporting her through that process. The word boundaries coming from this man felt like a scalpel being twisted. Sarah and I had never needed boundaries. We'd built our relationship on trust, respect, and open communication. I'd like to speak with Sarah directly. That's not going to happen. She's asked me to handle these kinds of situations. These kinds of situations? As if concerned fathers showing up to check on their daughters was a recurring problem that needed management. I looked past him, toward the house, my house, the one I'd bought for my daughter's freedom and security. Through the window, I could see movement in the kitchen. Sarah cleaning something with mechanical precision. This is her house, I said. I bought it for her. Brandon's expression shifted slightly, like a poker player who'd just been dealt an unexpected card. Sarah said, I don't know who you are. Actually, Brandon said, reaching into his jacket pocket, there's something you should know about that. He pulled out a manila folder, the kind lawyers carry when they're about to destroy someone's life with paperwork. Sarah and I were married on January 8th, 2024. As her husband, I have certain legal responsibilities to protect her well-being. He handed me a marriage certificate. The paper looked official, complete with raised seals and witness signatures. The house seemed different in the daylight, more opulent, more secluded, ideal for someone who wanted to control someone else without interference. Detective Crawford knocked. Police, we have a court order to speak with Sarah Phillips. Brandon answered, projecting the image of a concerned husband. Officers, what's this about? Sir, we need to verify Sarah's safety and well-being. She's fine, just having a tough day.
She's resting.
We need to see her directly. Brandon's facade cracked for a moment. She's not available right now. Sir, this isn't a request. We have a court order. Then we heard Sarah's voice from inside, not talking, screaming. Help. Please, someone help me. Detective Crawford shoved past Brandon, Amanda, and I right behind him. We found Sarah in the kitchen, pinned against the wall, her face stained with tears. But her expression morphed when she saw me. Get away from me, she shrieked. You're trying to ruin my life. Why can't you just leave us alone? I froze, stunned. This was not the reaction I expected. Sarah, it's me, Dad. I know who you are. You're the person who abandoned me for 10 years. You're trying to destroy my marriage because you can't stand that I'm happy. Brandon stepped beside her, wrapping a protective arm around her shoulders. She's been very upset about your legal actions. She feels like you're trying to control her life. But Detective Crawford was focused on something else. Ma'am, are those bruises on your wrists? Sarah quickly pulled down her sleeves. I fell yesterday. I'm clumsy. Those look like restraint marks. You're wrong. Brandon would never hurt me. He's the only person who's ever really loved me. I felt like I was watching an imposter in my daughter's body. This wasn't Sarah talking. This was someone programmed. Amanda stepped forward. Sarah, I'm Amanda Ross, an attorney who helps people who've been financially exploited. I'd like to ask you some questions. I don't need help. Others. There was a long pause. Others aren't. Sarah is strong. She's going to thrive. You mean she's going to survive longer than the others? I mean she's going to be happy, which is more than I can say for what her life was like under your control. The call was giving me everything I needed for the FBI, but it wasn't giving me Sarah's location. Marcus, I want to see her. I want to hear her tell me she's happy. That's not going to happen. Sarah doesn't want to see you anymore. Then let her tell me that herself. Goodbye, Dr. Mitchell. Don't bother tracing this call. We're already gone. The line went dead, but I'd heard something in the background. Airport announcements in Spanish. Tijuana, Detective Crawford said. They're flying out of Mexico tonight. But as FBI agents raced toward the border, something else. Here's the translated and slightly expanded text, aiming for clarity and a smooth narrative flow. That was when something completely unexpected occurred.
My phone rang again.
This time, the caller ID displayed Sarah Mitchell.
Dad.
Her voice was faint, filled with fear, yet surprisingly clear. Sarah, where are you? I'm hiding in a bathroom at the airport. Dad, there's something crucial I need to tell you about why I was protecting him. Honey, it's all right. We understand about the psychological manipulation. We know you weren't in control of your actions. No, Dad, you don't get it. I knew exactly who he was. I knew he wasn't really Brandon Phillips. I knew he was lying about absolutely everything. Her words hit me like a physical blow, stopping my heart cold.
What? I don't understand.
He told me if I didn't cooperate, if I didn't play the part of the perfect victim, he would kill you. The world seemed to spin on its axis.
Kill me? He has your medical records, Dad.
He knows about your heart condition, about our family's medical history. He said it would be simple to make it look like a stress-induced cardiac event. Sarah Mitchell Phillips, Brandon James Phillips. Date of ceremony, January 8, 2024. Witnesses, John Stone and Mary Davis. Sarah never mentioned getting married. She didn't want to upset you. You'd been critical of her choices before. She was protecting your feelings. Critical of her choices? I'd supported every decision Sarah had ever made. I'd celebrated her independence, encouraged her career, respected her autonomy. This was gaslighting, and I was watching it happen in real time. I want to see the house, I said. That's not possible. This is a private residence. You're not welcome here. I bought this house. My name is on the deed. Brandon's expression shifted to something like pity. Actually, no. Sarah made some changes to the property ownership after we got married. California is a community property state, which means... I know what community property means. Then you know that Sarah had every right to modify the deed. She transferred ownership to both of us last month. Everything's been properly filed with Santa Clara County. He pulled out another document, a quitclaim deed dated February 15, 2024. Sarah's signature was at the bottom, witnessed and notarized. But something was wrong with that signature. I'd seen Sarah's handwriting thousands of times, birthday cards, thank you notes, college applications I'd helped her proofread. Her signature had a distinctive flourish on the S and a particular way of crossing her TS. This signature looked similar, but the pen pressure was different. The angle was wrong. Where did Sarah sign this? I asked. At our attorney's office. Everything was done properly. What attorney? That's confidential client information. I stared at the document, my medical training kicking in. When you're looking at test results, you learn to spot inconsistencies that other people miss. This signature had all the right elements, but they were arranged as if someone had copied it rather than writing naturally. I need my family to leave me alone. Sarah, I said gently, I know you're afraid, but you don't have to be anymore. I'm not afraid of anything except you. Brandon showed me how controlling you are, how you've been manipulating me my whole life. Brandon nodded sympathetically. Sarah's been working through a lot of difficult realizations about your relationship, Doctor. Detective Crawford took notes. Ma'am, are you aware that your husband has been using your financial information to make unauthorized purchases? Those weren't unauthorized. We're married. We share everything. And are you aware that Brandon Phillips isn't his real name? For a fraction of a second, Sarah's conviction wavered. What? The man you married is using a stolen identity. The real Brandon Phillips died 3 years ago. Sarah looked at Brandon, confusion now battling the programmed anger. Brandon, what's he talking about? They're lying to you, honey. This is exactly what I told you they'd do. They'll say anything to break us apart. But something had shifted in Sarah's expression. What did you say about your name? Detective Crawford pulled out his phone. Ma'am, I have a death certificate here for Brandon James Phillips, dated March 15, 2021. Cause of death, automobile accident in Portland, Oregon.
Sarah stared at the document, then at Brandon.
I don't understand. Sarah, they're trying to confuse you. You know who I am. But if your name isn't really Brandon, then who are you? I'm the person who loves you. That's all that matters. Amanda moved closer. Sarah, do you remember signing any papers to transfer the ownership of this house? Yes. Brandon said it was for tax purposes. Do you remember the day you signed them? Sarah's brow furrowed. It was at a lawyer's office. But I felt strange that day, like I was sick or something. The whole thing is fuzzy. Sarah, I said gently, do you remember our last phone call? You asked me about chest pains. I did. Sarah's voice was gaining strength, sounding more like her usual self with each word. He showed me pictures of our house in Toronto, Pictures of your office at the hospital. He knew your schedule, your running route, everything. He said, if you ever try to contact your father or tell anyone the truth, you'll have an accident. Sarah, why didn't you tell the police yesterday? Because he still had access to you, Dad. He has connections, people who specialize in making problems disappear permanently. He told me about Jennifer Hill's father and how, after Jennifer died, her father conveniently suffered a fatal heart attack just 3 months later. The pieces were finally clicking into place. Sarah hadn't been protecting Marcus. She'd been protecting me. So, when I showed up at the house, I was terrified. I knew you'd figured out that something was wrong, and I knew that meant you were in immediate danger. Everything I said to you, everything I did, was following a script he'd given me. The marriage certificate. I signed blank papers. He told me they were tax documents. I only discovered what they really were later. And the house transfers. Dad, I never signed anything to transfer the house. Those are all forgeries. Detective Crawford, who had been listening on speakerphone, interjected. Sarah, this is Detective Crawford. Where is Marcus now? He's at the gate, flight 447 to Guatemala. It leaves in 20 minutes. But Dad, there's something else.
What?
He's not alone. There's another girl with him. She looks about my age, and she's acting exactly the way I was yesterday, terrified but defending him. Another victim? I think so. Her name is Monica. She keeps saying her family abandoned her and that Marcus is the only one who understands her. It's the same things I was saying. Amanda was frantically calling the FBI. They need to stop that plane. Sarah, I asked, how did you get away? I didn't escape, Dad. I'd like to speak with Sarah about this. She's made her position clear. She doesn't want contact with family members who can't respect her choices. Through the window, I could see Sarah moving from the kitchen to the living room, carrying cleaning supplies. She moved like someone following a checklist, not like someone living in her own home. Let me ask you something, Brandon. What kind of lawyer specializes in real estate, but also handles family therapy boundaries? His smile flickered for just a moment. I have diverse interests. And what kind of husband lets his wife do all the housework while he talks to visitors? Sarah likes to stay busy. It helps with her anxiety. Anxiety? Sarah had never mentioned anxiety. If anything, she'd always been the most emotionally stable person I knew. She'd helped me through my grief after her mother died. She'd been my rock during the hardest years of my life. I'm going to need to see some identification, I said, and I want to verify this marriage certificate with Santa Clara County. You're welcome to do that. Everything's in order. Good, because if I find out you've forged any documents or if you're manipulating my daughter in any way, I will destroy you. Brandon stepped closer, and his friendly demeanor vanished completely. Mr. Mitchell, I think you should leave. Sarah has moved on with her life. She doesn't need an aging father trying to control her decisions. I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to understand why my daughter is acting like a stranger. People change. Accept it. Behind him, Sarah appeared in the window again. For just a moment, our eyes met. And in that moment, I saw something that made my blood freeze. Fear. Not confusion. Not embarrassment. Pure, desperate fear. She looked away quickly, but it was too late. I'd seen what I'd seen. My daughter wasn't confused or boundary setting or moving on with her life. My daughter was terrified. You said you'd been having trouble sleeping, that you felt anxious all the time. You'd never had anxiety before. Sarah scanned the room as if seeing it anew. I do feel anxious all the time, and I can't remember things clearly anymore. Brandon's voice sharpened. Sarah, don't let them manipulate you. Remember what we talked about. But Sarah was backing away from him. Who are you? What's your real name? Brandon's mask shattered completely. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that you belong to me now. Sarah began to scream. You destroyed my whole life. What followed almost demolished everything we were trying to accomplish. Within 2 hours of Sarah's breakdown, Brandon's real attorney, not Kenneth Hayes, but someone far more dangerous, filed a countersuit that turned my world upside down. The papers were served while we were still at the police station. Sarah was giving her statement, slowly recalling details of forged documents and financial manipulation when Detective Crawford's phone rang. "Dr. Mitchell," he said after hanging up, "we have a problem." The lawsuit, filed under case number CV20248932, alleged that I was an unstable elderly man suffering from paranoid delusions, that I'd been psychologically abusing my daughter for years, and that I was now using false accusations to harass her husband. Even worse was the restraining order attached to it. "They're claiming you're a danger to Sarah's mental health," Amanda explained, reading the paperwork. "They have statements from someone called Dr. Boy William Morrison, claiming Sarah has been receiving therapy for father-related trauma." Dr. Morrison? I've never heard of him. That's because he doesn't exist, but the court doesn't know that yet. The restraining order was comprehensive and devastating. I was barred from contacting Sarah directly, from going within 500 yards of the house I bought her, from accessing any joint financial accounts, and from interfering with her therapeutic recovery. He let me use the bathroom, and I guess he thought I was too broken to try anything. But when I overheard him on the phone with you, when I heard him coldly explaining how he had destroyed me like it was some kind of accomplishment, something snapped. It made me remember who I really am. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I helped trauma survivors rebuild their lives, and I realized that's exactly what I need to do, starting with myself. Where are you now? Still hiding in the bathroom. Dad, I called 911, but I don't think the Mexican police understand the situation. The FBI is on the way.
Dad, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry I let him make you think I didn't love you. Sarah, you saved my life. You saved both our lives. Through the phone, I could hear airport security announcements and the sounds of people running. Dad, something's happening. I think they've found him. My daughter had known the whole time, and she was protecting me. 6 months later, I'm sitting in Sarah's real home, the apartment she chose for herself, with furniture she picked out, in a neighborhood where she feels safe. Marcus Hull was arrested at Tijuana International Airport with Monica Richardson, a 28-year-old marketing executive from Phoenix whose family had been searching for her for 4 months. The charges included identity theft, kidnapping, financial fraud, and murder in the death of Jennifer Hill. The trial revealed the full scope of his operation. Over 6 years, Marcus had systematically targeted and destroyed 12 women across 5 states. The financial damage exceeded $15 million, but the psychological damage was incalculable. Sarah testified against him with the kind of precision that reminded me why I'd always been proud of her mind. She explained his methodology, his psychological techniques, his threats against family members. Her testimony was devastating precisely because it came from someone who understood manipulation from both sides, as a therapist and as a survivor. I realized the signature on this document wasn't just wrong. I drove straight to the nearest coffee shop and called the one person I knew who specialized in exactly this kind of situation. Amanda Ross had a fearsome reputation in California family law circles. She didn't handle divorces or custody disputes. She handled cases where manipulation had crossed into criminal territory. I'd heard about her through medical conferences. She often worked with doctors whose patients were showing signs of domestic psychological abuse. Dr. Mitchell, I got your message. You said this was urgent. I think my daughter is being held against her will by someone claiming to be her husband. There was a pause. What makes you think that? I explained everything. The marriage certificate, the forged signature, Sarah's behavior, Brandon's controlling responses. Amanda listened without interrupting, which told me she'd heard similar stories before. Doctor, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Had Sarah shown any signs of wanting to distance herself from you before this Brandon appeared? None. We were close. We talked regularly. Any financial problems, substance abuse, mental health issues? Nothing. She was thriving professionally, financially stable, emotionally healthy. When did you first notice this personality change? I thought back through our calls. October, maybe November. She started seeming more careful about what she said. Dr. Mitchell, I'm going to tell you something that might be hard to hear. What you're describing fits a pattern I've seen before. Professional manipulators target independent, successful women precisely because they represent the biggest challenge. I don't understand. Think about it from a predator's perspective. Breaking down someone who's already vulnerable doesn't prove much. But if you can isolate and control someone like your daughter, educated, confident, financially secure, that's a real demonstration of power. Judge Wilson, the same judge who'd helped us that morning, was forced to sign a temporary order until a full hearing could be held. How long? I asked. Minimum 72 hours, maybe longer. Amanda, they could disappear in 72 hours. I know. But the worst part wasn't the legal strategy, it was what it was doing to Sarah. Dr. Lisa Chen, the psychiatrist Amanda brought in, explained it during an emergency meeting that afternoon. Your daughter is experiencing trauma bonding. The psychological manipulation has been so thorough that she literally cannot distinguish between protection and control. But she was starting to remember things. She was asking questions about his real identity. Exactly why this counterattack is so dangerous. When victims start to break free, manipulators often escalate to prevent losing them entirely. What kind of escalation? Dr. Chen's expression was grim. Isolation is the most common, moving the victim somewhere family can't find them. But in cases where the manipulator is facing criminal charges, what? Sometimes they eliminate the evidence. Amanda's phone rang. It was Detective Crawford. Brandon Phillips, or whoever he is, just made a very large cash withdrawal from an account we didn't know existed. $75,000, withdrawn 2 hours ago from a Bank of America branch in San Jose. Sarah's money. Looks like it. But here's what's really concerning. We just got a ping on his cell phone. It's moving south on Highway 101. Toward LA? Or toward Mexico? We think he's running with Sarah. We sent a unit to the house, but nobody answered. The neighbors saw a black SUV leave around 3 p.m. with 2 people inside. My chest tightened, the kind of pain that cardiac surgeons recognize as more than just stress. Are you telling me my daughter is gone? We're telling you we need to move fast. The restraining order complicates things, but if we can prove immediate danger. Amanda was already on her phone. Marcus received life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Monica Richardson is still in therapy, but she's recovering. Sarah has been helping her navigate the complex psychological aftermath of trauma bonding. It turns out my daughter is uniquely qualified to help other survivors understand how someone can love them and torture them simultaneously. The foundation is going well, Sarah tells me as we share dinner in her kitchen. We've helped 11 women so far. The Sanctuary Foundation, funded with $500,000 from the recovered assets, provides specialized therapy for victims of psychological manipulation. Sarah runs it with a kind of passion she's always brought to helping others heal. Any regrets about leaving the clinic?
None.
This work is more personal now. I understand what my clients are going through in ways I never could before. We don't talk about Marcus anymore unless it's related to helping other survivors. Sarah has established clear boundaries around that chapter of her life. She's engaged to a pediatric nurse named David. Yes, she picked someone with the same name as her father. And yes, we've all acknowledged the healthy irony of that. Dad, can I ask you something? When you realized what he was doing to me, were you tempted to just take matters into your own hands? I think about the night I spent in that house, listening to recordings of her systematic destruction. I think about how close I came to breaking every law I respect every day. What stopped you? I knew that saving you the wrong way would mean losing you forever. Sarah reaches across the table and takes my hand. You know what the difference is between control and love. Tell me. Love creates freedom. Control destroys it. And Dad, you taught me the difference. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find each other again. If this story reminded you of someone you know, please share it. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. Are you saying this is deliberate? I'm saying I want you to meet me tomorrow morning. I'm going to show you 3 case files. Emily Watson, 2019. Jennifer Hill, 2021. Lisa Chen, 2023. What happened to them? Same pattern. Successful women, sudden personality changes, isolation from family, mysterious marriages, property transfers. Emily lost a $1.8 million inheritance. Jennifer lost her tech startup. Lisa lost everything: house, savings, business. and ended up hospitalized for a complete psychological breakdown. My hands were shaking. What happened to the men who did this to them? That's the problem, Dr. Mitchell.
Same man.
The words hit me like a defibrillator shock. Same? You mean Brandon? Brandon Phillips, real estate attorney, licensed in California since 2018. Specializes in elder law and estate planning, which gives him access to vulnerable people with assets. He's very good at what he does, and what he does is completely legal right up until the moment it isn't. Why isn't he in prison? Because his victims protect him. By the time we figure out what's happening, they've been so thoroughly manipulated that they see us as the threat. Emily Watson testified against her own family in court. Jennifer Hill moved to another state with him. Lisa Chin tried to kill herself rather than lose him. I felt sick. Where is he now? According to my last information, he was between victims. We'd been watching for him to surface again. Amanda's voice got sharper. Dr. Mitchell, when did Sarah meet this man? She first mentioned him about 8 months ago. 8 months?
That's his timeline.
6 months to establish control, 2 months to transfer assets, then disappearance. You showing up might have accelerated his schedule. What do I do? First, you don't contact Sarah directly. If he realizes we're onto him, he could disappear with her. I'm filing an emergency motion to dissolve the restraining order. Judge Wilson will see us tonight if necessary. How long will that take? Too long. Dr. Mitchell, there's something else you need to know. Detective Crawford's expression told me I wouldn't like it. We identified him. His real name is Marcus Holt. He's wanted in 3 states for identity theft, financial fraud, and psychological abuse. But there's more. Jennifer Hill, the woman who disappeared 3 years ago, we found her body last month. She'd been dead for over 2 years. The room went silent. You're saying he killed her? We're saying she died under suspicious circumstances while in his custody. The autopsy showed signs of prolonged psychological stress and evidence of systematic drugging. My daughter was in a car with a murderer, driving toward the Mexican border, and I was legally prohibited from trying to save her. What about the FBI? This crosses state lines.
They're involved now.
But you need to understand, even if we catch him, even if we rescue Sarah, the psychological damage may be irreversible. Think about what this man did to your daughter over 8 months. Some victims never fully recover. I thought of Lisa Chun in the hospital, of Jennifer Hill's body in a morgue, of Emily Watson testifying against her own family. Are you telling me I might get my daughter back physically but lose her mentally? Dr. Chin answered carefully. Recovery is possible, but it requires extensive therapy, family support, and time. Some victims develop permanent trust issues. Others struggle with depression and anxiety for years. A few never stop believing their manipulator was the person who really loved them. Amanda's phone buzzed with a text. Her face went white. What is it? It's from Sarah's phone, but I don't think Sarah wrote it. She showed me the message. Stop looking for us. Sarah is happy now. We're starting fresh somewhere. You can't interfere. And remember, manipulation isn't love, control isn't care, and isolation isn't protection. These men often have exit strategies that include taking their victims to places where family can't find them. She's my daughter. I can't just... Dr. Mitchell, listen to me carefully. If you push too hard, too fast, your daughter could end up like Lisa Chin.
We need to be surgical about this.
Surgical? I appreciated the metaphor. What's the first step? I'm filing for an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. We're going to request a freeze on all accounts connected to your trust and the property. California law allows this when there's evidence of financial elder abuse. Elder abuse? I'm 58. The law covers anyone over 50 whose assets are being exploited through manipulation of their family members. It's a broader definition than most people realize. How long do we have? If my pattern recognition is correct, not long. Emily, Jennifer, and Lisa all disappeared within days of their families getting suspicious. And Dr. Mitchell, there's something else. I gripped the phone tighter.
What?
We never found Jennifer Hill. She's been missing for 3 years. The coffee shop was spinning around me. You think he kills them? I think he discards them when they're no longer useful. Whether that means abandonment or something worse, I don't know. But I know we can't let him get to that point with Sarah. I thought about the fear in my daughter's eyes. The way she'd looked at me through the window, as if she were trying to send a message she couldn't speak aloud. Amanda, what time is court tomorrow? 9 a.m. Santa Clara County Superior Court. Judge Patricia Wilson. I'm filing the paperwork tonight. I'll be there. Dr. Mitchell, bring everything, bank statements, trust documents, property records, anything that proves your financial relationship with Sarah. We're going to need every piece of documentation we can get. I hung up and stared at my coffee, thinking about heart surgery. If you try to follow us, Sarah will pay the price. That's a direct threat. It's also a confession. No legitimate husband writes threats like that. Detective Crawford stood. We're putting out an Amber Alert equivalent for adults. All law enforcement between here and the border will be watching for that SUV. What can I do? Nothing legally. The restraining order is still in effect. I looked at Amanda, Detective Crawford, Dr. Chin. They were doing their jobs, following procedures, working within the system, but the system was designed for normal situations. This wasn't normal. My daughter was in the hands of a man who'd killed before, who was facing federal charges, who had nothing left to lose. He was driving toward a border where American law enforcement couldn't follow, where missing persons cases got buried in bureaucracy. If I followed the law, my daughter would disappear forever. If I broke it, I might save her life, but destroy any chance of legal justice. Amanda must have read my expression. Dr. Mitchell, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that sometimes when someone's heart stops beating, you have to break their ribs to get it started again. My lawyer said, you could lose everything and never see her again. That night, while law enforcement worked through proper channels, I made a decision that would either save my daughter or destroy us both. Dr. Chun had given me an idea. The key to breaking trauma bonding is creating cognitive dissonance. The victim needs undeniable proof that their reality has been constructed on lies. Amanda couldn't officially help, but she could provide information that might prove useful. He's done this before, exactly the same pattern, she said during a late-night meeting at her office. Always targets women with family money, always uses stolen identities, always has an exit strategy involving foreign countries with limited extradition. How does he choose his victims? The most dangerous moment in cardiac surgery isn't when something goes wrong. It's when everything looks fine, but your instruments are telling you something different. All my instruments were screaming. Amanda said, all three victims had the same pattern. At 8:45 a.m. the next morning, I walked into Santa Clara County Superior Court carrying a briefcase full of evidence and a heart full of controlled rage. Amanda Ross met me at the security checkpoint, looking like someone who'd spent the night turning my daughter's situation into a legal weapon. Everything filed? I asked. Emergency motion for asset protection, petition for investigation of elder financial abuse, and request for immediate injunctive relief. Case number CV20248861 assigned to Judge Patricia Wilson. Amanda had been busy. She'd contacted Detective James Crawford from the Financial Crimes Unit, who'd been tracking Brandon Phillips across multiple jurisdictions. Apparently, Brandon had been more active than even Amanda realized. 6 victims in 4 years, Detective Crawford explained as we walked to the courtroom. Same pattern every time. Target successful women with family money. Establish romantic control. Isolate them from support systems. Transfer assets. Disappear. How much money are we talking about? Conservatively, $12 million across all victims, but that's just what we can verify. There could be more. Judge Wilson's courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, but Amanda assured me that was good news. Smaller courtrooms mean judges pay closer attention to details. At 9:15 a.m., Judge Wilson called our case. Amanda stood up like she was performing surgery herself, precise, confident, and absolutely focused on the outcome. Your Honor, we are seeking emergency protection for assets belonging to Dr. David Mitchell and his daughter, Sarah Mitchell, now Sarah Phillips. We have evidence of systematic financial manipulation and psychological coercion. He studies obituaries for wealthy families, researches property records for single women who inherit assets, and creates elaborate personas designed to appeal to specific targets. Sarah wasn't random. She was selected. Selected for what? For approximately $3. $2 million in assets, plus whatever he could steal from the trust fund, but also for something else. She works with trauma survivors. Taking someone who helps victims and turning her into a victim would be the ultimate power trip. Amanda handed me a file. This is everything we know about his pattern. If you're going to do something unofficially, this might help you understand how he thinks. The pattern was chillingly consistent. Marcus always kept detailed psychological profiles of his victims, studied their fears, triggers, and vulnerabilities, and created tailored manipulation strategies. He records everything, Amanda added. Every conversation, every psychological break, every moment of control. The FBI found terabytes of audio and video files in his previous locations.
Why?
Ego and insurance. If a victim tried to leave or expose him, he had recordings of them in compromised states to prove they were unstable. So he might have recordings of Sarah? Almost certainly. And those recordings could be exactly what we need to break through her psychological conditioning. At midnight, I received a call from Detective Crawford. We found the SUV, abandoned at a rest stop in Bakersfield. No sign of Sarah or Marcus? They switched vehicles. We're tracking credit cards and cell phone pings, but they've gone dark. Any idea where they're headed? Somewhere with no extradition treaty. He's used this route before. Bakersfield to Las Vegas, then private flights to countries that don't cooperate with U.S. law enforcement. I had maybe 6 hours before they crossed a point of no return.
Dr.
Brandon's attorney was a thin man named Kenneth Hayes, who looked like he'd handled this exact situation before. That was troubling. Your Honor, this is clearly a family dispute. Mr. Phillips and his wife have every right to manage their marital assets as they see fit. Mr. Hayes, Judge Wilson said, flipping through the paperwork, these assets weren't marital property. They were purchased by Dr. Mitchell before any alleged marriage occurred. Alleged marriage? Hayes looked defensive. I have the certificate right here. Amanda was ready for this. Your Honor, we'd like to submit Exhibit A, a forensic handwriting analysis of the signature on that marriage certificate. The handwriting expert's report was devastating. Sarah's signature had been traced, not written naturally. The pen pressure patterns, stroke angles, and timing intervals all indicated forgery. Chun had arranged for specialized recording equipment, used in psychiatric evaluations where patients need to be recorded without their knowledge. If you can get Marcus to reveal his manipulation tactics on tape, we might use it to help Sarah understand what was done to her.
How?
Hearing her manipulator describe his methods in clinical terms often creates the dissonance needed to break trauma bonding. But this is incredibly dangerous. If Marcus realizes what you're doing. I understand the risks. Amanda had one more piece of information. There's something else about Marcus you need to know. He has a psychological weakness. He can't resist proving how clever he is, especially to authority figures he's defeated.